Good day, folks. My name's Clay with the Clayway here in Muskegon, Michigan. And if you know anything about me and my channel, I constantly work on Sprinter vans. Today, I'm tackling a job that I've never done before, which is we're going to repair a sliding door on the passenger side of one of these Sprinter vans. Well, if this video is helpful, please consider subscribing, clicking the notification, sharing my videos, and giving me them sweet old thumbs up. And if you've got a question for me, you can hit me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook Messenger. I can't help you with your baby mama drama, but I may be able to help you with that old Sprinter. And if you ever need your Sprinter worked on, you're more than welcome to give me a shout out. I try to help everyone I can. I don't necessarily need any work, but sometimes people love to bring me these Sprinters because I do so many different things on them. Remember, if anyone else can do it, you can do it too. I'm not only here to show you how to do something, but I'm here to explain to you why you're doing it in the first place, while inspiring you and empowering you and showing you not to be the next to them, but the very first to you. Let's get going with this repair. So, we're going to attempt to change this bottom roller and the wiring that comes through there. And before we do that, we need to take off this plastic right here. Now, I've never done this before, but I've already looked at it and I've got an idea of how to do it. So we're going to give it a go. There's nothing on the internet for it, so let's try it out. We're going to need a T30, a flathead screwdriver, and we're going to need to remove 3 of the caps that are on the bottom here. They're really hard to see, at least they are for me. I'm not very visually challenged. Legally blind, actually. So if I can do this, you can do it too. So we're going to take the screwdriver and I'm going to bang it down inside there and get this cap to pop up. Once you get all 5 caps off, we're going to need to blow all the dirt and sediment out of the inside of here so our tool will go in there properly and hopefully don't strip. Now we're going to take some penetrating oil and spray it down inside the holes. There is a hole on each end that will need to have the screws removed, but the customer already did it in this situation. He informed me that he tried to remove them, but he stripped them out. So we're going to have to figure out a way to get these bolts broke loose. I'm sure I've got one in the back of my head somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to use an impact driver because there's probably a lot of rust and moisture that gets underneath there. I'm going to hold it squarely and hit it. Hopefully I can loosen these screws. Might need a little bit bigger hammer. These are Torx T30 screws that are down inside here, and because of the screws sticking through the bottom of the floor, often the tip gets rusty, and using an impact driver like this will allow you to loosen it up and make the job a lot easier. Look, while I was banging on it, another hole appeared. That's what I mean by they're hard to see. Now, up here on this plastic, these are T25s. We'll probably need to remove them as well. Okay, so let's say you can't get the bolts out, which I know is going to be a problem. You can use some of these extractors to possibly get them out. They also make different style extractors that have like teeth on the inside of them like these, but I'm afraid that the head's going to be too big to get in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to mic out the size of this head and figure out what drill bit we need to use to cut the heads of these off. The problem's going to be that this is hard. I'm assuming this is hard metal. Can't say for sure, but I'll bet you this is a muggle to drill through. But we got to do what we got to do, and if anybody else can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so this head mics out to about 11.4 millimeters, probably 11.5. And we can use a 27/64 drill bit, which is approximately 10.2 to 10.3 millimeters. That should work on these heads fairly well. Now on the bottom side of these bolts up underneath the carriage, you're going to have a few of them that are going to bust right up off of the body. And you're going to need to grab them with a pair of vice grips. They're round. They're not intended to break away, but they drill pretty easy. And I couldn't get that one. That one was stripped out, so I'm going to just drill these 3 out of here. So far, I've only found 5 inside the deck board and 1 on each end, but I have a suspicion that there's more. Okay, so I ended up drilling out these 3 right here, and then you give it a nice little pop, and you unplug the connector right down there. That simply just pushes backwards like that and releases the clip up, and then you're able to pull it off. And we'll see what happens when we go to pull this out. Okay, so you lift this end up. Well, I guess I have to have my wife show me because squarely and straight, I'm guessing. Okay, so now we've got what he cut off out of here, and we need to clean all of this stuff out of here. I would imagine that there's supposed to be some grease for this to ride on. And I'm not sure if this is broken, but we're going to figure out how this thing goes together. It had to have had something happen to it. So we're going to look back at the plastic piece, make sure there isn't something broken in there or what the scenario is. Now I was sifting through the dirt and I found a bunch of springs and stuff. They've got to go to something. And then I found a couple of washers down in here, bits of plastic. It's possible that we have more of a problem than just this thing, but we're going to have to take a look. Woo! Clay's hard at work today. I'm banging out the work right now. Look at my girl. She looks just like me. If you could see me, I look just like her. She probably looks dirtier than me. She's been crawling around underneath this van. Now we're cleaning out all this poo-poo. Okay, so now I'm going to pop these clips out of here, and I'm going to let you know about this mechanism. The customer brought this to me. He says he got it off of eBay. I could see where replacing this mat could be a possibility, but I think we're going to be able to get away from that. And I was looking at how this works, and I thought that this was broken, but I'm not so certain if it is or it isn't. But down inside here were a bunch of springs and stuff. I'm not sure if they go to this or not. I'm not sure if I have all the proper parts at this time, but I did figure out how this locks. So these cables come out and they go up to your door right here. At one end, when you get the new one, it is connected, but that's just because they use the same connectors. You actually unconnect this right here, and then them wires will go up through your door up to your door handle. At this point, I figured I needed to jack up my door, but then I just find out that all you have to do is pull out on it when you go to put your plastic back on the top, and it will fit down in the grooves. Please don't get mad at me for talking too long. I'm figuring this out as I go, and I'm trying to help folks out there, so I don't need your snide-ass little comments. Anyways, this will go up underneath here and run underneath this mat right here, which should keep it intact for a couple of years. We're probably dealing with some Chinese stuff, so maybe it won't last as long as OEM, but it does look very, very similar. This right here rides up in the track right here. So I would presume that we would grease this track right here. Yes, of course, it's going to have stuff that's going to collect in there, but we'll just clean it out and then throw some grease in there. Now, maybe you people know this or you don't know this, that I am one of the masters in the country at doing intakes on 3.0 CRD diesels, and I refurbish them all the time. Save you a couple $1,000 getting them done by me. But the reason for all of that stuff was one of the things that most people do not know, and you can ask somebody, if they say they know how to do Sprinter intakes, ask them what size the bolts are that hold down the center portion of the turbo. And if their answer is T45, they don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they know what they're doing, but they've never experienced stripping out one of them bolts in the center of the turbo, which they most definitely will, because it's a T47 just like these. I've never found an instance where a Sprinter Mercedes 3.0 diesel has a T45 in it. But every video I've ever watched that talks about doing turbo removals, they talk about the T45, and it's quite possible that the very first video I made about it, I may have said T45, but I wasn't experienced as I am now. So the next time you need your intakes done, cleaned, even if you're doing them yourself, send them on down to me. Make sure you use a T47 to get these 3 bolts out. I'm not going to end up jacking this door up. I don't think I need to. I can just quite simply pull it away and it stays there stable enough. We need to pay particular attention to where our bolts are, but I think it might have something to do with this door and how it shuts. So we may need to adjust these once we shut the door, because this will proportion the door away from the track. So keep that in mind about them adjustments down there. Are you filming?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know you'll do what you have to do to, you know, whenever stuff needs to be done. I mean, you're smart enough to know what to do with stuff.
I'm smart enough to know if I stab you, I'll go to prison, but I'll do it anyway.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're gonna fish our new parts up inside the door right there, our wiring connector and stuff, and I'm hoping that it's gonna go up there. If for whatever reason you got a lot of foam in here, make sure you drop down some wire, hook it to this before you pull out your old wires. But I think because our door is not sealed up, we shouldn't really have any issue installing this part right here. So at this point, I thought the cabling needed to go underneath this map or down below the flap. I was mistaken, so I was rambling on about that during this segment. Basically, I guess you just pull this out and find that you need to clean a lot more stuff underneath here. Behold the power of editing. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at this point with this stupid cable. I thought it went underneath there, but you'll find out that it doesn't. It just rides on top. Okay, so I believe the loom rides on the outside of this and the outside of this, or the inside of this. I don't fucking know. Now we need to address the bolts that we drilled off earlier. We're going to end up popping these out. You may be able to pop it up off of the side and break the weld on there, or you can take a pair of vice grips and take them out, or you can use the inverted style extractors that I showed you earlier. Okay, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have had to knock them out of there, but I don't have time to sit here and mess with them. And underneath these first 2 right here, I can get a nut and a bolt and some washers up underneath there, so that's exactly how I'm going to do it. Haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do this one yet, because this one is up underneath the tank, but I'm not super worried about it. I know that when the door sits in there, it strikes the back of this striker right here. So when we go to put the top plate on here, we have to move that door out to there. And when we go to put the top plate on, we're just going to quite simply click this into the end of that. Now we're going to move up to the cable connection assembly in the door, and we're going to pull that through our door, which was pretty easy. And we're going to take the cover off of there so we can install our cable into there. We need to keep pressure on the cable so it doesn't come unhooked from the lower portion of the latch, meaning the slide portion. This is our keeper cover, and we need to snap this out of here. So we're going to use a screwdriver, and hopefully this just pops right off of here, which I do believe it will. And it'll slide this portion of the carriage right out of there. Okay, so we need to slide this into here and slide this carriage down, allowing us to insert this into here, and this will click into place. And then we use the carriage cover. Notice the marks right here and the marks on the back side of here that will allow these 2 pieces to snap together. And then we can just put it simply back up into place, up inside the door, and it's held in there securely. Now down here we obviously can plug in our electrical connector wherever it goes, however it goes. And then that'll snap back into place, which I'm assuming is right here. I didn't take it out, so I'm not certain. So it could be in the wrong location for me, but you'll know because you probably took yours out. Okay, so there's 4 securing locations in the center here. These bolts are obviously different on the ends, but we've got 2 different size bolts. There's 1 longer bolt and 4 shorter bolts like this. Okay, so if you lost one of these bolts or they were broken and your nuts are still fastened to your floor, this bolt is a 6mm by 1.0, 18 millimeters long. So that means from the bottom of the head to the tip, it's 18 millimeters long. But all the bolts can be a little bit longer, with the exception of this one, which could go into your tank if you have the Blue Tech. These 2, they could be 25 millimeters. It really wouldn't matter how long they are. This particular bolt right here fastens down to the floor, and it's 60 millimeters long, and that can be longer as well and won't affect anything either, with the exception that I know from personal experience, it's very difficult to get a 60 millimeter long bolt at the store. So you could hammer out this nut and put any kind of nut and bolt inside here as long as they fit in the holes. So, you know, you can pretty much do anything you want in this situation just to anchor this down and hold it tight, because it needs to be held tight because this plate controls where this door is at. Okay, so it seemed like this piece sat down inside here, which actually kind of made more sense. But the problem would be is it would constantly pull in and out of this edge. So from what I can tell, it sits on the top of here. This little clip clips into there, and it has a clip on the top because it's made for either side. So you could use this in the European version that opens on the driver's side versus the passenger side. And now, once everything's cleaned up, could put a little bit of grease on our top pan, pull out our wiring, and make sure that you stick this loom inside here. This is going to be your biggest problem. That loom is going to come undone, put on our top piece, and bolt her down. Okay, so now you want to make sure that you pull out on your door so the bottom of it goes inside the track right there, and that is where your roller goes. You're just going to need to make sure you have it out like this, and everything should be working really well. When I was working this to try to demonstrate it, notice that my cable comes out of there. You want to make sure before you put that top plate on that that cable is inserted inside the latch. So make sure while you're installing this portion, it doesn't come disconnected from the lower portion down there, because you'll have to take this back out, fit it on there, and make sure you keep tension on this to be able to hook it up correctly so it pulls the latch correctly, or your latch won't release when you go to shut the door, because this releases the little hook at the back of the door. If you don't keep it taut, you'll be fishing that back in there or removing all of the bolts that you just put in and tightened down. If you do what I did, just take the wire and put it through the center and then have it pushed forward back past the connector. Once it's through the center and backwards of the connector, give it a pull and it'll pull into place. Okay, so I don't know what this stuff went to, but I do know that the door shut so beautifully to me. Now we need to check it from the inside, and Pat, hold on to that. Make sure it opens from the inside. You're gonna have to let me out if I get trapped.
No. Damn
It's a me, Clay-Doh. Anyways, we're good. I have to admit, I'm really actually kind of surprised about the accordion that runs down here. I'm not certain that I did that exactly correct. I had to look at a diagram and figure that out, and there wasn't crap for videos on this procedure in. None of them told you about what size bolts or if they break, what the scenario is going to be. But I'm a little bit surprised that Mercedes actually made that kind of crappy design. What I would have done was I would have took a spring and hooked it up into the corner of there, and when you opened the door, that spring would extend, but pull it back so it had some direction right there in the corner. I don't know if that would have worked, but if I had more time, I probably would have done it that way. I hope you guys dug the video and you got your doors fixed just like we did. I never did figure out if any of these springs or ball bearings went to anything, but whatever. They're not in there now and the door seems to work, so that's all good. Well, I think that door turned out amazing and it worked perfectly. I'm not sure if there was something missing out of there, but we got it back together. I'm sorry about jumping around. It was one of the very first time I had my wife helping me with the camera work, and we're going to train her and get her a little bit better, and then I'll get a little bit better, and we'll all be a little bit better in the end. If this video was helpful, please consider subscribing, clicking the notifications, sharing my videos, and give me them sweet old thumbs up. If you've got a question for me, you can hit me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair and send me a DM. I can't help you with that old baby mama drama, but I may be able to help you fix that ride. People bring these sprinters to me from all over the country. I do intakes on them quite frequently, and that's how I met this gentleman. About a year ago, I did intakes on this one, so he was nice enough to bring it back so we could make a halfway decent video about repairing that door. Remember, it's not only about the how you're doing something, but it's also about the why you're doing it as well. Don't be the next to them, be the first to you, and if anyone else can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. God bless, folks. Have the best of days.